Everybody, Apple rolling out its streaming service today. It will be free for a year for every customer who bought a new Apple product, and it's priced at just $5 a month for everyone else. That's the lowest of the subscription prices of any of the other streaming services. And joining us right now to talk about the high expectations for Apple is Joan Solsman, senior writer at CNET. Also, Gene Munster, who's co-founder and managing partner at Loup Ventures. And why don't we just start out, Joan, talking about what this means, what the expectations are. It's a different product than the other streaming services.
Yeah, not only
it's $5 and free for a lot of people.
Is it cheaper and free? That's about the right price for it because
it's free and that's the right price. That's what you're saying. Huh?
I mean, it's hard to be free from a consumer perspective, but especially because it only has 9 titles. You know, people are trained on Netflix, which is a fire hose of new programming and original programming, in addition to a giant licensed catalog. With Apple, you're not going to be getting that. It's really just 9 titles, and you're not getting entire seasons of it right at launch. And so it makes sense for them to give it away for a year, let them build, let their own pipeline start to accumulate so that next year when a bigger majority of people are going to be choosing whether or not to actually pay for it, they'll know what they're buying.
Hey, Gene, it sounds a lot more like the Amazon strategy with Amazon Prime, where you get it free if you're signing up for Prime anyway.
More or less, and they'll probably add, like we talked about, 200 million kind of ish free subs on top of that. But I think that Amazon Prime analogy is important here because we zero in on a day like today on the content lineup, which is appropriate, the few titles. But I think that the more important strategy, similar to Amazon for Apple here, really is to bring together a lot of different products for consumers. It's the only company that can really go end to end when it comes to consumer tech. And this is obviously the services piece is just one of those aspects to it. And so they're just kind of filling in that element, very similar to what Amazon has done, as you said, with Prime Video.
Gene, it's Joe. So the fact that this TV Plus is being accounted for as services revenue, does that indicate that going forward, eventually, this is going to be free throughout, that no one's going to be paying, or that there's going to be higher content costs related to it?
Content costs are going to go up. It's probably between $1 and $2 billion now. Amazon's at about $5 billion. Netflix is at $15 billion. But Tim Cook hinted this week that they would be inching the price up over time. So I don't see this as kind of a race to the bottom for Apple in terms of ultimately giving it away. I do see an opportunity. I mean, signing up 200 million people, undoubtedly there are going to be people who are going to forget to renew or forget to cancel, I should say, and be kind of shepherded in there. When we put all of it together and think about this at a $5 per month, this probably adds somewhere in a few years around 3% to revenue. So it's measurable. But again, I think what is most important here is this theme about bringing all these products together, almost this consumer tech staples company. And I think that ultimately is going to warrant a higher multiple for Apple.
Hey, Gene, 2 questions. One is, do you think they'll ultimately need to buy a library?
No.
You do not
think that they're going to take this?
You think they're never going to buy a library? That they're not going to need more materially more content if they're ever going to get the price higher the way you're talking about?
Let me step back here from that. I believe that they could buy more content. When you say library, I think of this long tail Netflix that is somewhat irrelevant. I think that they would buy like premium content. Like I think the Disney piece, if you want to call it, to me that is like iconic content. I think that that's something that they could do.
But if they would buy Lionsgate,
I don't think,
or a studio where they actually had, a library of 1,000 films or other TV shows to actually build this out because of the issue that you're talking about. If you only have 9 shows, or even if you're able to produce another 10 shows or 15 shows, is that going to be enough to sustain it?
Well, I can tell you what Apple is saying is that they're going to have fewer titles.
Right. No,
call it 40
I know
or
what they're
50.
saying. I'm questioning whether you think long-term that's going to be the strategy. And the second piece of it, maybe both of you can speak to this, that with lots of fanfare last year, Apple announced Apple News Plus,
Correct.
which was a subscription service. And I'm curious, does anybody have any sense of what the take-up is been on Apple News Plus? Because I hate to say it, and I'm an Apple crazy person. I don't think it's actually been that high. Do you know?
No, it's not.
I don't think they've said, but I think that the piece that we're not talking about whether people are going to be willing to pay, even if it's only 9 titles, 20 titles, 30 titles at whatever point, is are those titles any good? You know, if you only have one title and that title is Game of Thrones, people are going to pay $5 for that. They don't have Game of Thrones, and they won't. HBO Max will have that. The piece we don't know yet is, are these titles going to be the kind of fire in a bottle thing that even if there's only a few of them that people have to see, they'll still pay? $5 isn't a big bar to clear.
The problem with that is that you have to find fire in a bottle every couple of months if you're going to continue to do that.
And for, you know,
through it.
fire in a bottle for a mass audience is one thing. Finding the thing that really appeals to different niches. They're trying to do that with some kids programming, some young adult programming, some doc programming at launch, but it's hard to hit all those bases.
Which is why I think the low expectations is probably what they're going with, and keeping it that way. This is value add for a lot of these people, and just locking you into that ecosystem again. I think that's what you kind of pointed out at the top.
You talk about the ecosystem, and I wonder if ultimately where this all leads to is just an overall subscription model where you're bundling the hardware, you're bundling all of it into a monthly subscription. I think that's the place that Apple ultimately ends up.
It feels much more like Amazon's strategy to me. It works as a consumer with Amazon, and it works for what Apple's already doing, locking you in with the photos and the music and everything that I've got going on, the multiple number of Apple devices I've got.
The hardware, though, is the key element of that. Every 2 years, the upgrade cycle, you don't have to worry about it. It's just going to be delivered to you based on you having the subscription.
Yeah. The one bundle to rule them all from Apple. We haven't seen it yet, but they're building it, and they want to have that service revenue because of the 2-year cycles. They're tired of being reliant on having the iPhone being the only thing that they can really tout about.